Right, welcome to part 3 of the Triangulated Analysis K-12 example covering the Common Core State Standards analysis part of our project. So when I left off at the screencast before, we were talking about the Common Core State Standards that are not covered. And so I had shown you this example. I kind of went through it really quickly and then realized I was not going to have enough time to finish anything, so I might as well go back over it. So if you take a look, I said I was looking for opportunities to teach some of these standards that I figured weren't included in the original program because they were not included in the California English Language Arts Standards for grades 3. They may have been included, and you'll see that on the crosswalks document, they may have been included in a different grade level, but not grade 3. But regardless, I now need to teach them in grade 3. And so I was looking at this example of Standard 6, and it was the one that dealt with academic vocabulary. And so I did, in looking at this unit, I found places that I could address those standards. So I have to make my own lesson, obviously, but I could address them there. So I'll just show you where I found that. Okay, so I noticed that when they did academic vocabulary here, they have a different kind of definition for what academic vocabulary is. And is it on this? Okay, so right here on day 1, this was their important academic vocabulary words for the week, because these are words that the teacher was going to be using. So I'm not saying that these aren't academic vocabulary words, but they're words that the teacher is going to be using over and over again in the course of her instruction, and of course you'd want to point those out. But when I think of academic vocabulary words, I also really think about those high leverage tier 2 words that the students can then own and use themselves. So I said, well, and those are general academic vocabulary words, and I need to teach those as part of my grade 3 Common Core State Standards now. That was Standard 6. So I went back into the book and I found some opportunity in the story about wolves. And let's see, did I note the page here? Page 108 and 109. That they used the words hierarchy and they used the words exchange, right? So I thought, well, those are good general academic vocabulary words. So if I'm going to take some time and teach academic vocabulary, those are 2 good words that I can focus on, rather than maybe focusing on the phrase multiple meaning word or the phrase text structure. So, you know, to me, text structure is something that needs to be taught to them. I don't know about teaching the phrase text structure as academic vocabulary. It's certainly not general academic vocabulary, which is what my Common Core State Standards called for. So then, so I made that note to myself, because that's, you know, this is part of my analysis of the program, is not just how Common Core ready is the program, but then I'm going to think about later on kind of how I can use my program to teach some of the standards that aren't covered. So this is why we're doing this part now. And then the other one was that in Standard 6, they also asked you to consider academic vocabulary in 3rd grade as words that signal spatial and temporal relationships. And so I thought, okay, well, are there any good examples of that? And, you know, I'm not going to say that you need to dig super deep and find, you know, 20 opportunities to teach this, because sometimes it's not going to lend itself well. But I did note that when I just looked at the first story that they're reading in this unit, here we go. The very first page starts with a word that signals the passage of time, right? The very first sentence. So after walking for many days. So why not just take that opportunity to do after, and then the next paragraph is then. So it just shows students that time is passing there. Good opportunity to deal with that particular standard. Then maybe we can take those, I can write a whole lesson, right? We can take those words, we can apply them later on, we can use them with our vocabulary, however we want to do that. But I did find some opportunities that made sense to address the standards that weren't covered in the California English Language Arts Standards, but I do need to cover now as part of my Common Core. So in this template, I really just showed you, two examples, depending on how many standards you have over here. So how many standards your unit is covering or addressing is going to depend on how many examples you do here. So like if you have comprehension, remember I said you don't have to look at, oh, there's my phone. I'm going to pause that. You don't need to look at every single comprehension standard, but go into a unit and look at the comprehension standards that are being addressed in that unit. And those are the ones that you want to put on this template and discuss. And then you want to look at the Common Core state standards that are not covered by the California English Language Arts Standards, and you want to look for opportunities that you could teach those standards within that unit that you're analyzing. So you're not looking at your entire program. We're really just going to focus this on one unit. And so the reason I'm kind of have been narrowing us down, like, part one when we did the theory, we looked at the program a little more holistically. And then since we've been kind of narrowing our focus is because at the end of the course, when you need to write your own innovative literacy program, it's going to look like a unit. So I'm not going to have you obviously write an entire program. You're just going to work on one unit. So we've been kind of slowly moving in that direction. All right, so hopefully this gives you a good place to start. And then after you turn this in, the next week you're going to be focused on, or for the 29th, I believe, putting it all together. And so that's when I have a template for you. It's got a couple of prompts on it, and you're going to be putting it together in more of a narrative. So it's not like a 5 to 7 page paper or anything like that, don't worry, and you can actually do the narrative piece right on that template. But that will go up sometime next week. You're just going to put all 3 pieces together. That's why it's really important to kind of do the notes section, right? Because you're gonna use that in that piece. All right, so hopefully this will get you started, and this was a good enough explanation for you. And remember, again, this is for K-12. If you're the community college track, you need to take a look at the other set of screencasts.